Guardiola, Guardiola, Guardiola. Hey, 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 hey.
What's up, brother?
Man, how are you?
Good, good. Man, what are you doing on this
Good.
lovely early morning back in
I am,
Lufkin, Texas?
yes, I have driven 20 minutes from my home up to my future place of work, and I am sitting in my car in the parking lot because this is the closest place that I could get good LTE so we could make a nice phone call.
Oh, what's up, guys? I didn't see you there. This is Mike and Leb's recording podcast. We have a new English Premier League champion. We have some semifinal matches to talk about, but mostly we're just going to worship Pep Guardiola in this session, so I hope you're interested.
Little pep review.
All right, man. So, and like personally, this podcast is very interesting for me because I was a critic, and it's like, turns out you look back at Pep's career, and if you're a critic of Pep, I mean, you can be skeptical, but if you're like saying he's a bald fraud or anything like that, like, you don't know anything about football. So this would be a good informative one for anyone out there that feels that way.
You know, my new rule that I've decided that I'm going to follow as closely as I possibly can for the rest of my life is don't feed the trolls. Just don't feed them.
Yeah,
You know,
for
that's how
sure.
they die. You just ignore them when you're on social media. You're looking at people yelling out that Pep is a ball fraud. United fans trying to say, "Oh, they didn't win it on our watch." You just don't feed the trolls. So I'm just gonna ignore. We're gonna ignore them, and we're gonna look at who Josep Guardiola really is.
Caleb, we have a call in from our sideline reporter with an update from the match. Hold on just a moment. All right, guys. So it's a bright, sunny day, Liverpool West Brom, and it looks like Danny Ings has scored in the fourth minute. He's coming in off the corner on a rebound. The Hawthorns are already going down, but it's not looking good. Back to you guys in the studio.
Oh, thank you so much for that live update from a game that no one cares about. No, I'm just kidding. You
Danny
guys should
Ings,
smash them.
Danny Ings has had two back-to-back years with cruciate ligament tears, and the dude is playing again, and I don't know how he does it. Like the
That's
mental, how do you not
yeah.
give up? Anyways,
Got to give respect. Absolutely. I'm always happy to see a player come back from injury and get to play again. That's pretty cool. You guys think you guys are gonna like what do you predict the scoreline's gonna be now that you've already got a fourth minute goal?
oh man, that's one of those things. Like if we score early, it could be anything. It could be 5-0, and it could finish 1-1. So I'm
Yeah.
not really ruling anything out
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. All right. Well, so let's talk about this last week. It's been insane. This is why we love the sport. There's nothing predictable. Like, I know that there's a lot of jokes about Premier League scriptwriters and stuff like that, which is funny. But man, who would have seen this coming for United to lose to West Brom like this in the middle of the week? The City players weren't even together. They were all split up all over the world. I know that after we beat Spurs last weekend, shout out Harrison. Kevin De Bruyne said that he was going back to Belgium to hang out with his family. Everybody was totally split up. Pep Guardiola was on the golf course with his son. Um, so nobody even saw this coming. I mean, are you surprised that United lost to West Brom?
Yeah, I am actually. I am. Like you get the team up to come back from 2-0 down at halftime to you guys to stop you from winning the league, and it's like, man, that's their, that's kind of the high of their season. And then there's like I mean, they weren't going to come back, but there's like there's just a sneaky way. If you guys had lost a few games in the last bit and they had won some games, yeah, but then they lose to West Brom, and they deserved to lose. They looked terrible. No, they didn't show up, and I mean, we're talking about a team that's already relegated. Is it
Why
just
is Man? Why is Man United so bipolar? Like they played very well against us. I gave them credit at the time. Their goals were really nice. Pogba played finally like up to the unbelievable amount of money that they bought him for. Played up to his potential, and I thought they were gonna. I thought it was the team that we had been expecting to see all season, and I kind of thought they'd have a good run of form on the way out of this season. And there they go, next game, lose 1-0 to West Brom. I mean, can you explain why they are this way?
I don't know. If you've got the play, I don't know. I don't know, honestly. If you've got the players, is your manager not getting you up for each match, or did they not care at this point of the season? I mean, we could say a lot of things about United, but they are second place, and they are second place with relatively comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
They would have.
Yeah.
I mean, we're 4 points off them now.
It's got to be that the players underestimated West Brom. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
Also, West Brom has a little bit of a new manager bounce, like they say. Like, man, Pardue. I mean, imagine being so crap that without you, the team plays better automatically.
So, City won the league midweek by not even kicking a ball, just sitting around, and United took care of it for us, so we appreciate that. Thank you, Manchester United, for handing us the title. Wish we could have done it at the Etihad against United, but things aren't always fairy tale endings. So I mean, we'll take it however we can get it. So that wraps up our season as far as trophies. What's exciting now from the perspective of a City fan is that we have the rest of the year for our new players to play and our younger players. And so I'm really excited to see Phil Foden, our Stockport Iniesta, as they're calling him.
Really?
Yep. I hadn't told you that.
No.
He's from Stockport, Manchester.
Oh
Manchester, born and bred. And Stockport Iniesta is what they're calling him. So really excited to see him get a good solid run of games. I'm hoping he gets to start quite a few of the remaining games that we have left, which I think is 5 games left. I'm excited to see Brahim Diaz, who is a Spanish left winger. He can play on the left or right side. He is really, really good. He's also 17 or 18 years old. He's one of our academy kids. He scored an absolute wonder goal against Real Madrid in Los Angeles in preseason in the beginning of the year from way outside the box. So he's very talented, very pacey, very tricky. Raheem Sterling-esque in his dribbling and speed. And he's very small, got the heart of a lion. It was amazing. He did come on when we played United in Houston as well. And was watching him out there. I think he's like 5'3" or 5'4". Playing up against Paul Pogba was just a thing of beauty. Just the size difference, and his speed and quickness. I'm just really excited to see him play some more. And I think those will probably be the only 2 guys that'll get to play from our youth squad. We've got another defender, Tosin Adebayo, who's a center back. He might get a run out. But I think we're going to be really letting John Stones play a bunch for the rest of the year to try to get a good run of form. So England fans will be happy for that because hopefully it'll get his confidence back up high and get him ready for England to dramatically fall out of the World Cup as we assume that they will.
Oh,
so anyway, excited for the rest of the season, and it feels good to be champions finally.
Well, you want to take a look at the rest of the table real quick and give a few blurbs, and then we'll go into you guys a little more?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, Chelsea are 5 points back with 4 matches to play. It would take something pretty interesting for them to come back in, and we also played Chelsea. So that that could have some implications.
Yeah.
It would be a 7-point swing for Chelsea to pass up on Liverpool.
I just don't see it happening. I see it ending exactly as it is right now.
Yeah.
This is how I predicted the top 4 at the beginning of the year. This is exactly what I predicted from 1 through 6. So I'm just, we'll have Nate Detterman on at the one more time this year, and we'll talk about that because he, myself, and our friend Dalton sat down and picked what we thought it was going to look like, and am very excited to say that I nailed it. So that feels good.
But the one thing you didn't predict, and let's see if it happens, Burnley is 2 points off of Arsenal. Like,
Right.
that could happen. That would be interesting.
That'd be really interesting. I definitely did not predict that.
They
Um,
Arsenal have a game in hand.
Speaking of, while we're talking about Arsenal, ode to Arsene Wenger. He's finally taken our advice. I know he's a big listener of this podcast. So Arsene, I just want to say, man, really enjoy having you as a fan of the show. I'm glad you listened to our advice and went ahead and he's going to hang up his boots. And I'm sad because it's fun having Arsenal wallow in mediocrity. And with him leaving, they might actually get good again, and so that's not good for anybody. But it's time for him to go. And in all seriousness, banner aside, he has been an absolutely incredible manager. He changed the Premier League. There will be a lot said to him. There will be a lot of homage given to him, and I think it's deserved because he has been an incredible manager. I really wish he would have left sooner so that we could do more praising his name because I think he deserved that at one point. But, as the song says, you got to know when to walk away and know when to run. And unfortunately, he did not know when to walk away, and he walked away too late. And he tarnished his legacy, in my opinion, by how late he stayed. But nevertheless, fantastic manager who changed the game.
Yeah, man, it's tough. He outlived his legacy. He had the Invincibles team. He was one of the first really foreign managers in the Premier League. I was looking back at who the managers were, and the exotic pick seemed to be a Scottish manager at the time, and then he came in, and then you get managers like Gerard Houllier after that, which ended up being a really successful manager for Liverpool. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I was comparing what Arsenal had been doing recently, and besides finishing second in the league in 2009, Arsenal has been more successful than Liverpool. Arsenal win the FA Cup here and there, make the Champions League every year, all those things. So for me, he'll always be. I saw the Invincible season, I saw this and that, but later in his career, he'll always remind me of the obstinate manager who would not spend money and invest in his squad. You sell Robin van Persie and you get Marwan Shamakin and stuff like that, and I'm just it was well known that Arsenal had the money, so I don't ever know what the disconnect was there. But I mean, it was
Obstinate. Obstinate's the word. I think that describes him.
the board liked keeping him because he made the Champions League for 16 consecutive years or something like that. He didn't spend a lot of money, and they got to pay their stadium off. They loved him. They didn't really care what the fans. But I mean, I think at this point it's probably gotten bad enough. I think he wanted to stay based on his comments all year, but I think the board basically some kind of situation. It's man, your job is untenable at this point. We do not want to fire you, or something around those lines.
Yeah.
I think he'll be back. I saw some reports that he would be the general manager at PSG, or there's a lot of places he can go, and I think he'd still be a commodity. So that'll be really interesting to see him somewhere else.
It will be. Well, general manager is one of the last spots I would have him work because his eye for players has really fallen off. He hasn't done anything impressive as far as player acquisitions in a really long time. So I don't think that's where I would have him. But yes, I do think he can find his place in the football world. But it would not be acquiring players, in my opinion.
I don't think it'll be in the Premier League either, whatever it is. I just don't see that.
Yeah. So at the bottom of the table, this will be fun to keep an eye on. You got Crystal Palace and Swansea just outside the relegation zone, and Huddersfield, with right now Southampton, Stoke, and West Brom set to go down. I do think that Stoke and West Brom will probably go down. There is still hope for Southampton. They are 4 points back of Swansea. That's not an insurmountable gap, in my opinion. What do you think? Are Southampton doomed at this point, or can they pull a great escape?
They're not doomed points wise, but they've just been so awful. They've been so awful. They blew a 2-0 lead at Chelsea. They really could have used those points.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it'll stay as is. 4 points is not insurmountable by any means, and it could be. Looks like Swansea has a game in hand, but 4 or 5 points, whatever. I think it'll stay as is. That's my prediction. Just because they've been so
Wilfred
bad.
Wilfred Zaha is single-handedly keeping Crystal Palace from getting relegated.
Man, yes. And I'll ask you a quick question. You can just say yes or no. We don't have to go into it. Do you think do you think Zaha is ready to move back to a big club? Because he played for United and he wasn't quite ready for it.
Yes, he's big club ready.
Yeah.
He is phenomenal. There's been talk about him going to City. I have a hard time seeing him at City because I do not believe that he would move the ball quick enough to other players. He loves holding on to the ball, because that's what he has to do. He has to single-handedly do everything, or not everything, but
it's not. You're not exaggerating. I agree totally.
Yeah, and we have a listener who is a Crystal Palace fan, who shout out Logan, who I'm excited to have him on the podcast at some point to talk about Crystal Palace. And actually, I'd love to get him on before the end of the year, so we need to make that happen. But man, Crystal Palace are a team that I think are a really cool team. They're the quote unquote Dallas Cowboys of the Premier League, with cheerleaders and everything surrounding them.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I'm sick. Yes. They have the owner is, and again, I can't wait to have a true Crystal Palace fan on to really talk about it. But from what I've read and heard, the owner is dedicated to having a Dallas Cowboys type atmosphere in the stadium, and I know they have cheerleaders, and so they're an interesting club, and I think they bring something to the Premier League, but they need to spend some more money, and they need to do a little more. But anyway, really interesting team, so I'd like to see them stay up if possible. But Zaha will be gone at the end of this year, and he will go to a bigger club. I hope he doesn't go to City. I hope he goes somewhere else that would fit his play style a little more. But yeah, Crystal Palace, really interesting. I think that's pretty much good for the relegation battle. Do you have any other words on it? I'm glad Huddersfield are staying up as well. I really like their manager.
Yeah, man, and not talking about relegation battle, but a team that almost everyone, when I was reading preseason and listening, had to go peg down was Newcastle. And their squad's just not very good. It's not good. It's championship level squad, and what Benitez has done there is extraordinary. And a lot of people are saying, it's one of his biggest accomplishments was not only keeping them up, but they're in 10th place, and they've got a game in hand on everyone, so they could finish above Everton. And he's basically everyone wants him to stay, unanimously wants him to stay. But basically, he said, we'll have to see if the club matches my ambitions. Are they willing to spend money finally? Because Newcastle historically sells and does not spend any money on the squad. So he got them straight back up out of the championship, headed for maybe a mid-table, maybe a top half-table finish. So I'm following that closely.
Impressive, definitely impressive. I want to see Eddie Howe's Bournemouth make some moves next year. Maybe buy a couple decent players. They are my second team. My first team is City. My second team is Bournemouth. I really like them. I really like Eddie Howe. I call him Babyface Howe. He's dedicated to playing a beautiful style of football. He brags about the beautiful pitch at his home park and how perfect it is for playing a beautiful passing style of game. And I'd like to see them do something a little more than be a mid-table team. I'd like to see them battle to make a top 6 spot, get into Europe. But I just don't know if that'll happen with the size of that club and if they're willing to spend any money to get up there. But, I mean, come on, you got Leicester finishing in 8th. I don't see any reason why Bournemouth can't finish above Leicester. But Leicester's got that star power up front that really keeps them going.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting. I saw Eddie Howe as an outside shot for the Arsenal job. That's a really big jump from promotion to that. But I mean, I just thought it was interesting because I'm the same as you. I've got nothing but adulation for that guy and how much he cares about the game and his club, and he doesn't compromise on his playing style.
Yep. All right. Well, let's go ahead, and I think we've done a nice review of the table there. Really intrigued to keep an eye on the relegation battle and see how it ends up. But let's go ahead and talk about the current Premier League champion, and my vote for Manager of the Year. I think he probably will win it. I mean, it's what he's done this year is nothing short of amazing. I don't know if our listeners, and we have some listeners who have been watching the Premier League for a long time and know their history. I don't think you can ever name a team that has won the league has just walked the league in this manner. I mean, it's been anticlimactic in a way because we've all more or less known, or it's been mostly likely that Manchester City would win the Premier League since January or since December, basically since we beat Man United in the derby over that winter period. I mean, it's pretty much been wrapped up since then. Do you feel the same way? I mean, when did you start really feeling like, oh, this is over, that City had it?
Anything for sure can happen, but when I saw the way City was playing going into so I distinctly remember reviewing your guys' season before we played you mid-January. And I was
Yeah.
kind of like, do City have a chance of, like, what's the deal here? And I'd be interested to listen to our podcast around that time because I can't remember exactly what we said. But I didn't.
Well, we were talking about having an unbeaten season at that point.
Yeah.
We'd only had one. We'd had a draw to Everton, and we'd had a draw to Crystal Palace. And then we had not lost a game yet when we played you guys during that Christmas period.
In that time, I didn't think you guys were going to lose. It was mathematically still possible, but the way you were playing and Pep had you guys going, I didn't think I thought it was done. But I mean, I think people say you can call the. I don't know, man. I feel like 15 points in March. Like, I feel like it's pretty much wrapped up at that point. I don't, as far as the rest of the league being able to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you think that Pep should win Manager of the Year, or would you have someone else up there that you think could compete for that?
Man, if there was someone else that could compete for Manager of the Year, I think it would be Benitez. I think what he's done straight up, and then I don't know. Do they only look at a Premier League context? Like, what if Jurgen Klopp won the Champions League? I don't really know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know either. That would be an interesting shout, and I do think that Benitez is a good shout for it. But if you look at years past, and nobody's crediting City for a turnaround, but I mean, you went from last year battling it out for, what did we finish? Third? Yeah, we finished third last year.
Yeah,
no trophies.
Yep.
Yeah, third place, no trophies. And then to win a domestic double this year and absolutely walk the league, that's a turnaround. And that's we had a big change. What are you going to say, and what?
And one of the, possibly most dominant Premier League champions, So, I mean, that's all fair shouts. He could win it and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe that's who should have won it. I think if anyone that comes to mind, it's Benitez, Arsene Wenger, and
all right. So,
what about can we give it to Mark Hughes because he's going to do something extraordinary this year, guys? I think he will. He will be the first manager to ever coach two teams that were relegated. He relegated two teams. Like, that would be an honor. If Stoke goes down, then that's the. Because I mean, Southampton and Stoke, I think they'll both go down. Anyways.
In baseball, they have an award called I think it's the Golden Sombrero, where you strike out 5 times in a game. They need to have an award like that. They need to have an award like that in the Premier League that they can award Mark Hughes. All right, so let's do the quick review. I've done a little research on Pep Guardiola, and I'd like to share it with you guys and just talk about. Let's see where he's come from to get to this point. He was born Josep Guardiola Sala. His last name, this is according to Wikipedia, Sala. So at some point, I'm sure that Mo added the H, but greatness definitely runs in that family.
He didn't want to be in Pep's shadow anymore.
That's it. Little brother Mo in Pep's shadow, so he added the H somewhere down the line. He's, as we all know, he was born in Catalan, and he's a massive supporter of the Catalonian independence bid from Spain. He grew up in the Barcelona Academy. He started playing there at the age of 13. Played for the Barca senior team for 11 years. Had 263 appearances. He played as a defensive midfielder or holding midfielder, which is probably another reason why he loves that particular position so much, why he loves Fernandinho. And he said at the beginning of the year if he could play with 11 Fernandinhos on the pitch, he would. I think that's just interesting. That's definitely his favorite position because he played there, so it makes sense. He had 6 goals, and I never was able to find, or I didn't take the time to look up how many assists that he had, but I bet he had a lot more assists during his 11 years. After he left Barca, he played for 5 teams, including Roma, in over a period of just a couple years after he left Barcelona. And then he came back in 2007, and he started coaching the Barcelona B team. And it was around this time, coaching for the B team of Barcelona, that he first met his arch rival nemesis, who he has appropriately destroyed in the 2 years that he's been in the Premier League, Jose Mourinho. And they were rivals, they were frenemies, as you can put it, at Barcelona. Contrasting styles. Pep wanted to make football the most beautiful game ever seen, and Jose was looking, even at that time, to destroy everything that we love about the game. In my opinion, I think it's interesting though. This thought did occur to me, is that as they're sitting there watching Barcelona play and move the ball in their fluid tiki-taka style, Pep said, "I want to improve on this," and I truly do believe that is when Mourinho looked at it and said, "I want to figure out a way to destroy this style of football. How can I stop beautiful flowing football, and how can I make football? How can I truly create anti-football?" And if you look at what Mourinho's success has been, that's what it's been doing, is counteracting, parking the bus, and just basically suffocating the life out of the game, and the opposite of Pep. And so I really do think that was the beginning of the contrasting styles, and when they both went a different direction regarding the same game. And it's just cool for the game of football because you can see 2 managers each have, one more success than the other, but different styles of the same game, and both can work. Pep, after a couple years, he was upgraded. Actually, he only coached the B team for 1 year, I've got, in 2007, and then he was quickly upgraded to the first team coach in 2008. And I remember that Mourinho felt slighted because he wanted that job more, or as much, and that was the beginning of their rivalry, was at that point. His first year at Barcelona as the coach of the head team, they won the treble, La Liga, Copa del Rey, and the Champions League. So he won the Champions League in his first season as a manager. He was the youngest manager to ever win the Champions League. The next season, they were knocked out of the Champions League and did not win it. I've got that they were knocked out by Inter in the semifinal, and then that same Inter team went on to win the final that year. And then,
yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, thank you. And then in 2000, the year after that, they won La Liga, the Champions League final, and the Supercopa. So another treble for Pep in his third year. So first and third years, he's won the treble, and he's never he has not won the Champions League since that time, because he went to Bayern directly after that, was knocked out in the semifinal every single year that he coached at Bayern, and then this year was knocked out in the quarterfinal with City. So that Barcelona 2011 Champions League was his last one. Mike, do you want to pick it up at his time at Bayern, or anything to add to his Barca time?
Yeah, so it's just I watched quite a bit in a documentary. His playing career was really good. He was the captain, and you talked about it. He played that deep-lying center defensive midfielder role, and that's interesting too. You talk about Fernandinho, and I look at his Barca team, and so much of it was predicated on kind of moving around Sergio Busquets. So that's a really interesting point. Like he has a lot of respect for that position. Yeah, and then he went to a few assorted clubs, and he came back and, like you said, coached Barca's B team, got them up from the third division to second division, and like that's a huge leap to go from that to the head coach of Barca, and that was a risk. They loved him from his time. Oh, this was interesting to me, and I didn't know this. So when he was at Barca, his head coach, when he was a player, his head coach was Johan Cruyff, who is like the inventor of like total football, and like he is the one that Barcelona's identity is today. Everyone accredits it to him. So he like studied under the tutelage of like the original total football kind of god.
The Jedi Master.
That's it. And he took over Barca at a time when they're getting a little bit stagnant, and Frank Rijkaard was coaching them. They had a lot of really highly paid players that were not super motivated, and he took over, discarded a few players. I remember specifically Deco was playing for Barca, and he was dropped. And this is also at the time that Thierry Henry was there, and they had a really strong squad. And to go from getting the Barca B team promoted from the third to second division to coaching Barcelona and winning the Champions League, I mean, it's extraordinary. And like that's when his bar was set up for him to be the greatest always. And when I was watching some interviews from Xavi for whenever Pep stepped down, and he's like, nobody saw it coming. We were all heartbroken. There was no external force pushing him out at Barcelona. He was just tired of being scrutinized through a magnifying glass. And I just can't imagine what that job was like. You had taken this team to 2 trebles. Like, what do you motivate them to do further? But anyways,
Definitely.
So then, so we can talk about Bayern. Did you want me to segue into that?
Yeah, I can talk about Bayern a little bit, and yeah, maybe the reasons why he left. Exactly what you were saying, and he said that multiple times, is that it was internally. It was the movers and shakers at Barcelona, the press, and the fans. For some reason, and it's just the Barcelona way, but he was so heavily critiqued, scrutinized, and criticized at every turn when he's winning everything. And they brought this on themselves. Russell Franks would definitely have something to say about this regarding the way that Pep was treated during his time. But I believe that they are the reason that he is no longer there. And his heart is still there, and I believe he will go back to Barcelona at some point. I don't know if it'll be in a head manager role, but I do think he'll go back because he loves that club so much. But the move to Bayern was a move to see if he could conquer another league. And he truly did conquer the Bundesliga. And that's what Pep said when he came into the Premier League, was that his goal was to prove that his style of football could work anywhere in the world. And I think he has proved that by the way that he dominated at Bayern, and he has dominated the Premier League this year as well. But his time at Bayern was similar to his time at Barca, but less glorious because he was never able to win another Champions League. And that's actually a really good question that's been discussed a lot, is why was he not able to win a Champions League at Bayern? And Mike, I don't know what your thoughts are, but you and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, and tell me a little bit more about that Bayern team, because I know you watched them, and what you saw, and maybe your opinion as to why they couldn't win that Champions League title that they craved so much right after they had been successful.
Yeah, so like just thinking about Pep's time coming into Bayern, Jupp Heynckes, he had been like kind of their long-term manager, their stalwart, whatever, and they had decided that Pep was going to come in, mutual agreement. And then Heynckes goes and wins the treble. They win domestic, they win the league, and they win the Champions League. So I just think it's really interesting. Pep's coming in following that, and he's implementing a totally different style of play. And it's like, let me convince these players why my way is the way to play over your team that just won everything. So, I mean, like, I'm talking about, like, challenge from the get-go. I'm talking about another language, another country.
And at the time, this team, the players there, they were at the very peak. This was when Mueller was the best Mueller. This is when Ribéry was still, a younger man. This is, I mean, these guys, Philip Lahm, I mean, you look at the players on that team, these guys are all just incredible world-class players who had just won everything. So that's, I think, another thing that's interesting is that you have to contrast that to this City team where he came into the City team. There were some good players, but it was nothing like what he had when he went to Bayern.
Yeah, and they. So I know specifically the first year in the Champions League. That's the one I watched more closely. So I mean, that's the game they lost to Real Madrid away, and then they lost at home 4-0 on this return leg. And the players in the locker room had said, "Let's play the Bayern way. Let's play the Bayern way," and he agreed to do it. And he most famously came out in that press conference and told everyone that the players decided that we would play that way, and like that was kind of his comment. And that, for me, that seems kind of uncharacteristic of something he'd do now. It didn't seem like a throwing under the bus thing. It just seemed like this is what happens. And yeah, so that was interesting.
I think it shows that I think it shows how married he is to his system, and he cares more. I don't know if this is in defense of him or in criticism of him. I just think it's how he is. He cares more about his system than he cares about anything, and I do think that includes the players sometimes because, like last year, when he struggled at City and we didn't win any trophies and we weren't playing incredible football. We were for flashes, but it was never sustained. He came out and said more or less that, I just haven't had enough time. I need more time. And it was more time for the players to get the system. So he was backhandedly blaming the players in a way. But I think he was proved right by this year by having more or less the exact same players other than a different goalkeeper, a different left back who did not play the entire year, and Bernardo Silva, who only played in spurts, for a lot of the years. So more or less the same core of players other than the goalkeeper, and did have a totally different year. So anyway, I agree with you that he doesn't normally throw the players under the bus as bad as, say, Jose Mourinho does, but he's married to his system more than anything. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and like that was an interesting point that these people in this documentary said. I think he was saying coming to Bayern was this big test to prove himself, and he couldn't ever call on like I loved the club, so you should love me. It was all based on results there, because like you said, it was known Barca was his heart. And he didn't win the Champions League at Bayern, but outside of the media, like he is deeply respected within that organization. That they believe he took a group of players that were good and still made them even better. And now Bayern is considered this machine, kind of this hybrid machine with this group of players who can play this really high-pressing, counter-attacking German form, but then they can switch to another, within seconds, another form of kind of keeping the ball and moving through methodical possession. And like he took a team that had a playing style that was very counteractive to what he did, won 3 straight Bundesliga titles, and they had not been that successful in the Bundesliga up until like that recently. So a lot of people look at that and judge him based on Champions Leagues because that's what we do. But I mean, like the people in Bayern Munich believed his time to be very successful in what he did there. And Bayern have not won a Champions League since he left. It's not just him, And they've won 5 in their history. So I mean, it's not like this competition that they've been systematically winning. Also, the Bundesliga is not an easy league.
I don't know many people that would agree with it. The Bundesliga is not an easy league, but I mean, if you say so, I don't know it well enough. I know a few of the teams. I follow it very loosely. It's interesting because the Bundesliga is now it's being aired on Fox Sports, right? The Bundesliga games.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it would be something that is possible to watch over here in the States now, where it didn't used to be. So I wonder if there are people who are some of our listeners. Follow Bundesliga. That'd be an interesting conversation to have about the Bundesliga as a whole. But I've never heard that it was not an easy league. I've always heard that it's pretty much Bayern, Borussia, and then everyone else.
Yeah, this is not a good year to say that, to compare. It's a 20-point difference, and I think over the years Bayern keeps buying everybody's players in the Bundesliga, but it's considered more competitive historically.
Than say La Liga?
Just I don't know. Like, yeah, I guess that's what we do. We compare it to other leagues. I'm saying it's been historically more competitive than it is now. Like Bayern hasn't. I think they're on like 6 straight league titles right now.
Yeah,
But before then, like for Pep to win those 3 leagues in a row when he was there, like that was considered a big success.
gotcha. So then, below the scenes, um, the team at Manchester City had been laying the groundwork since Pep's time at Barcelona to get him to Manchester City. So when he moved to Bayern, it was because Cheeky Bergerstein, who is the director of football, or is the general manager of Manchester City Football Club, and Pep Guardiola are best friends. Pep has come out and said that's one of his closest friends in his entire life is Cheeky, and then there's another director of football or behind the scenes front office person at City, and I'm totally blanking on his name right now, who is also Spanish and very close friends with Pep. And these two guys have been working hard since Pep started thinking about leaving Barcelona. They have been working hard to convince Pep to come to Manchester City and take on the massive project that we've been working on since the takeover in 2000 and was the takeover 2011, something like 2010, and it did not. They decided that City was not ready for Pep at the point that the infrastructure wasn't in place yet, and he also was dead set on going to Bayern at that point. But the entire time that he was at Bayern, there was communication happening where we were trying to pull him away from Bayern and let him know and show him what we were doing to get ready for him to arrive. So us getting Pep had been in the works for a long time. Whenever you hear Manchester United supporters say that, oh, we had a shot at Pep, blah, 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 I think they did have a shot at Pep. I don't think that's wrong. But with the Spanish undertones of our club and the close friends that he has at City, I think he was always coming to Manchester City. And his arrival was, heralded. We all remember this last year at the beginning of the season. It was supposed to be Jose versus Pep in a renewal of the rivalry. And I feel like we've kind of gotten that. Do you feel like we've gotten Jose versus Pep, the rivalry part 2, English edition, Mike, since he's come in?
Yeah, man. I remember just thinking, like, man, both of those guys in Manchester, that's extraordinary because they had they were, when he was coaching Barca and Real Madrid, like, I think sometimes maybe we can forget about how fortunate we are to have the managers we have in the storylines. And, Manchester United weren't really a big participant in this rivalry for most of this year, but, for them to stop you guys from winning the title at home against them, that was kind of Mourinho's piece, I guess.
Mm-hmm. By the way, the takeover was in '08, so just to correct myself, it was in
Oh, wait.
'08.
Okay.
Yeah, and took 2 years, massive investment over 2 years before I started watching, and then they poured the money into the club from '08 until our first title in 2012. So yeah, but the rivalry has been renewed, and I think it's given us some good moments. I mean, this year when we beat, I mean this was pretty funny in my opinion when we beat them at Old Trafford, and then. Give me your opinion on this. I think we talked about it at the time. How much did you hear about the Milk Gate 2017, where we were celebrating loudly with loud music in the Old Trafford dressing room, and Jose could not take it and stormed down to the dressing room to
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
try to quiet the party. I mean, do you think that was wrong of us to celebrate loudly with loud music after we had just beaten our rivals? Or do we have the right to celebrate? We kept it all in the dressing room. Do we have the right to celebrate as we want in the dressing room?
You do have the right. You do. And I didn't know what Mourinho was talking about. I had forgotten about that. After he beat you guys at Etihad, he said um, we were respectful in our celebrations post match to be considerate of the other team. I was like,
Wow.
what is he talking about? Okay, It's like, dang, Jose, hold a grudge much, man?
Oh
God,
yeah.
it's football. You got to be able to take that. There's way worse things that happen in football than a team celebrating a win. Yeah, that
It'd be different if we were running up and down the corridors at Old
sure.
Trafford
Yeah,
smashing things. Absolutely. But when you're playing loud music in your own dressing room, I mean, we had literally just more or less won the league at that point, and I think the players knew that. Like that was one of the last really big hurdles we had that could possibly take the title away from us at that middle stage of the season, and we played really well that game. We thoroughly outplayed them that game.
yeah.
And I mean, whatever. It's just drama. I'm not, and that's a very Mourinho thing to do. Go bust up the party. The party ruiner. That's who he is. In his
Yep.
style of football and everything, he's the party ruiner. So, I think it's consistent with who he is. But that's pretty funny in my opinion. But it's great drama having both of them, and one at United and one at City. And for the sake of the league next year, for the neutrals and for the drama, I hope United are better. And I'm going to regret saying this. I can already tell. But I hope
Mm-hmm.
United are better next year so that they can actually make it interesting. Somebody's got to make it interesting. And this is a good segue. So you wanted to ask me about what I foresaw as the future and as next season. Do you want to phrase it to me, or do you want me to go ahead and just answer?
I have a question first.
Okay.
I think you guys would have won the league regardless. But what do you think about? I mean, the league was okay, so it can only get better. The league was not as competitive this year. Like the top teams, I didn't think were as good or as consistent. We're talking about our previous Premier League champion finishing out of the top four. Liverpool, we're kind of still finding our feet. Um, Tottenham, they can't decide if they want to be in the Premier League race or not. Like it's just got to get better, right? And my question, okay, so my question to you would be, um, who do you see as the primary next title challenger for City next year?
It's got to be United. They're going to go out and spend a ton of money again, um, and they're going to come for it next year. I don't believe you can keep a squad with that much talent down like
Yeah.
this. The
Yep.
players are going to play together more. I think Pogba is really getting better. I've seen him improve. He's too talented to play as poorly as he has so far in his time there. So I see them really contending for the title next year. I see, man, so difficult to predict what Spurs are going to do because it depends on what happens at the offseason. Let's put it this way. If Kane stays and they keep the same squad, it's so difficult because almost honestly, my heart says it's going to be more of the same from Spurs until they get some more depth. And this is just what Harrison said last pod. Until Spurs get more depth, I do not see them doing any better than they have done so far. I think their ceiling with the current squad is what they are doing right now. So I don't see them competing for the title any more than they have with the current squad. Now, if they get some improvements and some more depth, I could see them challenging for it next year. Chelsea look like they're a mess. Conte is leaving, so that's going to really depend on the new manager coming in, and it's going to depend on them revitalizing and re-energizing that squad.
They need some players.
So
Chelsea
they need some
needs some
players.
players.
Yeah, they've sold too many for too long. Arsenal have a good squad. We're going to have to see what the new manager does, but they don't have the level of talent that City and United have as well. So I think, and then Liverpool, they're right there. They're right there.
Settle.
I could see them.
Settle.
I could see them compete. I could see them competing for the title next year. I think after United, they are the next best contender for the league. The problem with Pool, as you know, is that they always play best against City. They are City's kryptonite. They are the number one team that I never want to see on the sheet for us to play against. But they don't play as well against other teams as they do against us, and so it's going to be finding that consistency. Um,
We need to
and
get
and
a we need to get a second first squad. We've got a great first
right,
11, but then it drops off dramatically from there. I think that
Yep.
like we have to buy some depth, like quality
Yep.
depth.
Yep. So it's going to be a really interesting off season. I think everybody else. This will be one year where City get outspent by a lot of their rivals, which I'm totally fine with. And so we'll see what happens next year. Let me say this to wrap this up. There will never be, in my opinion, there will never be another season where a team dominates in the way that we did. Maybe ever, it's tough to say ever again, but in the foreseeable future, no team will walk the league like we did in the foreseeable future. What we did this year was absolutely amazing. That run, 18 games on the bounce winning, not an 18-game unbeaten streak, an 18-game win streak will never be beaten in the Premier League. Never, ever. That is unbelievable. And that is why Pep Guardiola should win Manager of the Year and why Kevin De Bruyne should win Player of the Year, right there.
Man, it'll be
But
interesting to see the voting. I feel like I won't get into that. I feel like De Bruyne has dropped off a little bit from his form, like maybe in the last month and a half.
he has, but they vote in January or February
Yeah.
when he was at peak. So I think he says that he thinks Mo Salah will win it, but I think when you look at when they vote, I think he'll win it over Mo.
Yeah.
But either way, they both deserve it. So
It's
if Mo wins
interesting.
it, he deserves it.
I don't actually know how much like. I don't actually know how big of a deal that award is, honestly.
Yeah, I
Because
think
it's
it's
like,
bigger to us than it is them.
yeah, because I want Salah to win, but it's cool because I'm like, man, De Bruyne could win that, totally deserving winner.
Yeah.
So, and De Bruyne has come out and said the same thing. He's like, of
Yep.
course, I think I deserve to win it, but he's like, Salah is a worthy winner of that, and vice versa. And it's different. It's kind of hard to compete with someone who scores that many goals, but like
Yep.
what De Bruyne does is absolutely essential to that team.
Yep. This is what I said early in the year. He's the best player in the best team in the league. So by definition, I think you should win Player of the Year.
It's interesting, and this is total anecdotal, and it's not and it's not to counteract your point. So we played you guys 3 times. We played you, and I'm okay. So 4 times, but I'm thinking like as in recent, and not 5-0 because that match didn't happen. Talking. So in the Champions League, 2 legs, and then when we beat you guys at home, and like every match, I'm like, man, De Bruyne, what a good player, that guy. But he didn't end up doing any damage to hurt us. And I don't know if that's more
Yep.
to maybe that's just a point to say like Klopp, like you said, is the kryptonite. You know how to play against
Yep.
City. But I just thought that was kind of interesting. But I mean, I have nothing but respect for the guy. He's the thing I
It.
forget, and unless you watch him, he is so powerful. Like
Mhm.
you can't tackle him without outright taking him out. He
Yep.
is so strong. And besides having this amazing vision with the ball and passing, facilitating, reading the game, and knowing where to be, and the passes he
Yep.
can pick out, he picks out passes from his level that I can't even see from the bird's eye.
The most amazing passes he does are these passes when he's on the right side and he curls the ball. I've never seen anyone get this much curl on it and then put it in with such pace. It's a low driving cross with it almost turns 90 degrees. It has so much curl on it. It'll be headed straight for the byline and then completely curled to go directly across goal to that back post. And that's a big reason why Raheem Sterling has so many goals this season is that cross that Kevin does. The other thing that's amazing about him is he's so two-footed. He says he's right-footed, but I don't think he knows what footed he is because he has scored some screamers with his left foot. Um, his goal against Chelsea at the beginning of the year from outside the box. I mean, I just can't say enough about him. He's incredible, and I love him. So, but Mo is incredible too. Every time you watch Mo play, he's magical. He's the closest thing to Messi that we have on this earth, in my opinion. And so I definitely think he would deserve it as well. But yeah, Kevin was completely shut down in all the games we played against you guys, other than the first one where we smashed y'all, because the system that Klopp orchestrated and created worked to a T against us. The overall press, just the entire thing. Kevin didn't have any answers, and that's something that I'm looking forward to next year. And I'm excited for a rematch against you guys, because we need a W. We need to go to Anfield and get a win. It's got to happen at some point, and
There's some
I
kind of
think next season.
There's got to be some mindset around it now at this point. The way it's been so
Yeah,
consistently like a blip on the radar, like to drop off like that.
yeah. There's some voodoo going on, but
Man, was it against Bournemouth recently, or who was it? When someone put an air ball into De Bruyne, and the dude like one touched it into Sterling's path for a goal.
that was
And
against Spurs.
Spurs, I was like, are you kidding me?
It was
Are you
unbelievable.
freaking?
Oh,
And you could hear it. He
the
got solid contact on it. Like he went
yep,
totally
yep.
intentional, like rolled it out of it. And I was just like, that's unreal. That's
It was. And Sterling after the game was like, his biggest regret was that he didn't finish it, because it wasn't it. Sterling didn't finish it, um, like he should have, and I don't think the goal that we got came later. It wasn't as a result of that ball
well,
directly.
okay. I want to say
But,
something real quick about Pep, and you just made me think of it. A,
yeah,
a lot of people say like he's someone like put him somewhere and he'll bankroll it. That's how he gets his squads and Messi this and stuff. But the guy can also develop players. Um,
yeah,
Look, I think Sterling's around 20 goals, 22 goals or something like that. And I
yeah,
compare that with the player that he was with like Pellegrini. Wasn't it Pellegrini right before Pep?
yep,
So I mean, like he developed Sterling into a. I mean, he developed him into a more complete player. I think Sterling has a little ways to go. If the dude could finish, I mean, that sounds crazy. That sounds insane. But if he could put more goals away, that with the chances he has, he could be like bump him up into the next tier of like elite players. You know.
yeah.
But I mean, he developed Sterling. Like Sterling was not in a good way at City when he took over, and I think
Not
like
at
he doesn't
all.
get credit for that enough.
That's his right now. That's his crown jewel is Raheem Sterling, and the way that he's playing. He does have a really good goal tally this season. His game is incredible. His close control, his speed, his technicality, his dribbling, his positioning, his defensive work is all amazing. He tracks back really well. His game is very complete, other than his finishing, and he's been working a lot on it this season. It's gotten better than it was previously, but he's still got a long way to go there, and that's what I want to see from him. If anybody watched our Mike and Leb's story during the Spurs game, I was pulling my hair out with all of the chances that Raheem had, that he did not put away. There was one where the ball fell to him in the box off of a corner. He feinted, cut right, feinted again, rounded Lloris, and then instead of putting it away, one of the defenders sticks a leg out and deflects it out. And that was just one of the many times that Raheem had really good chances that he didn't put away. But then in classic Raheem form, 2 minutes later he smashes a ball into the back of the net, into the roof,
Yep.
and essentially put the game out of reach for Spurs. So he's just that frustrating player that if you love him, you love him, and if you hate him, it's easy to hate him. So I'm a fan of Raz. He feels like that little cousin or little nephew that you always root for, but finds a way to just screw it up all the time. But anyway, I hope he's Pep's crown jewel of development so far.
Talking about finishing, I just want to give a quick shout out to Alvaro Morata. Totally blows a one-on-one against Burnley. Don't know what the deal is
Hmm.
there with his finishing. We got to get a psychologist for that guy. All right, back to
Yes,
City.
he needs professional help. Murata does. He really does, because we know he's got it, and
Yeah.
he's mentally gone. Honestly. Well, what else you got, Mike?
Yeah, I don't. Man, full deserved to City. Dominated. Didn't really ever look in question. And the dominant run you guys went on, unbeaten that long into January. I mean, it's truly incredible. I'm interested to see who you guys acquire this summer. I don't think it's in the cards. I don't think Messi's ever going to come to Manchester City. I just don't think it's
No,
going to
I don't
happen. I
think
know we had
so.
talked about that. And, not just we, but people had talked about that,
Yeah, that ship has sailed, I believe. It's a nice dream, but he'll never leave Barcelona, in my
They take
opinion.
care of him, man. Like, they pay his
Oh yeah.
taxes. They've got his family set up. He makes, like, over 600,000 a week. He's not going to leave. They,
No,
they would not let him leave. They would do anything
no.
within their power to.
Yeah.
And, I mean, man, it's just a good thing to sit here and check our league privilege right now. We've got Jurgen
Yes.
Klopp, Jose Mourinho, like him or dislike him, whatever. He's one of the best managers in the world, and
Yes.
we've got Pep Guardiola. We've got all these cool managers: Bournemouth, Burnley,
Rafa Benitez.
Rafa Benitez. I just think it's really interesting, like the way people can criticize the Premier League. Yeah, like
Just don't feed the trolls. Just don't feed them
yeah,
because it's ridiculous. It's why it's not even worth discussing. The arguments against the Premier League being the best league in the world are just absolutely ridiculous. And if you think that it's not, then you don't watch it. So, I mean, that's just don't feed the trolls. I don't think it's even worth discussing.
let's throw some let's throw some quick semifinal predictions, and then like the guys, let's get another show to review after the first leg of semifinals. Does that sound good?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so
So,
Roma Liverpool. I believe this game is in Rome.
first, no. How lucky did you get? Come on. How lucky. You got Roma. You could have gotten Bayern. You could have drawn Real Madrid, but you drew Roma. Come on. You know that was the pick that you wanted.
Oh yeah, man, definitely. Um,
Liverpool, it feels like destiny to win it to me because you guys still might have beat Bayern or Real Madrid, maybe. I'm not trying to be a hater, but I mean that's a tough hill to climb for anyone. But you got Roma. Like this is the most winnable opponent. This is the most
if you're
beatable
in the
opponent. I don't want
semifinals,
to
yeah,
I
I
don't want to
think
underestimate them, but come on.
I, it is the favorable draw. You look man for man at that team, where they're challenging at in the league. I know Klopp's not going to do this like Barcelona did, and other teams in the competition did. Like, let's not forget that Roma was in a group with Chelsea, Atletico Madrid, and another team, and they won that group. So
Wow.
but, I mean, that's the thing. You can't sleep on them. You got to respect them. This is the tie I would have picked. And I mean, besides that, like, how cool is it that Liverpool or Roma is going to be in the Champions League final? I think that's really cool and so different. I think
Yeah.
Roma would not stack up well against Madrid or Bayern. I think it's in everyone's interest that Liverpool goes through for a more competitive final. You know what I mean? And I this is I expect to win this. I'll be pretty devastated if we do not win the semifinals because man for man we're better. We've got the better manager. We've got the better players. We just got to show up and execute at this point. And in Rome, I'm gonna I will say that the match finishes 1-1 or 2-1 in favor of us, and we go in there and get an away goal, and we call it like that's job well done. But they're going to defend. It's an Italian team. They're a solid unit. They move as a unit. They've got Dzeko, a very direct striker. That'll be a good duel for Van Dijk, and I think he'll be up for it.
I'm calling 2-1 Roma in the first leg to set
Mm-hmm.
up some drama for the home one. I think if Roma's going to go through, they've got to beat you guys at home. So I'm predicting 2-1 Roma in the first leg, and then I do predict you guys will go through, and you'll beat them. It'll what would 3-2 would put no 3-2 would not put you through. So like 3-1 at home for you guys. Yeah. So yeah, that's how I predict you guys will go through. But I do predict that you will. But I think they might if they're going to go through. Their only hope is if they beat you at home.
But they've got to win that match, yeah.
They
And I think
have to win at home.
that's favorable for us. That's the draw we would like is to play at home second leg,
Yeah.
like just kind of as a Liverpool way. And I just want to say,
Yeah.
like, man, so grateful to be back in relevancy. And just so grateful for to even be playing in the semifinals. This season has been like I'm on cloud nine right now. And a few
Yeah.
things just to talk about where this team is now. We have the second most clean sheets in the Premier League. Like,
What?
yes, sir.
That's crazy. I honestly no idea. Did United have the most? Did
I
City
believe
have the
so.
most?
Yeah, I believe it was
I
United.
think United probably did. Yeah.
I'm like,
That's insane.
talk about how far this team has come, and like more to come in the summer. And like right now, Klopp's done everything. First year back in the Champions League. I'm not even gonna send. I mean, Rodgers had us in the Champions League, but that was really bad. And he brings us to the semifinals. I mean, like he's getting the keys to the castle. Like the dude is, and he'll have the power to invest. And anyways, okay, yeah, I'll digress now. So Real
It's
Madrid.
exciting. It's exciting
I
for
could
you.
go on.
I give it
We'll
to
do
you.
some. Yeah, we'll do some end of the year review. We'll talk more on that, and we can kind of go into depth about what each team needs. So
Yeah.
Bayern Munich, Real Madrid.
Who do you call? Who do you think will go through there?
Man, I just think the pedigree of Real Madrid
Yep.
and having one of the greatest players of all time in there, I just think by volition, by will, pure force, nature, I think Madrid will go through. And
I,
you will see Ronaldo. If it's in doubt, Ronaldo will be there to
yep.
push. I don't. That's not a disrespect to Bayern. I just think Real Madrid, like it's in their blood.
I agree. I'm not even gonna say anything else because you can't add. It's just Real Madrid are probably gonna win this, and they're probably gonna win the Champions League again this year. And I don't want them to. I would like to see somebody different. I would love to see either Liverpool or Roma win it. That'd make me very happy. But Real Madrid, man, they are what they are, and they are a machine. And Ronaldo is a freak. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and yeah. So I was watching, or I was reading an article, and there was a reporter on the plane back with the Barcelona players after they lost to Roma, and all they were talking about on the way back is like, we just gave the Champions League to Real Madrid. We just gave the
Uh,
Champions League to Real Madrid.
mm,
And again, like Liverpool being the underdog, like I want to see us have a storyline in that because we weren't ever slated to go this far in the competition. But I don't think anyone will treat us as an underdog anymore. I think the news is out, basically.
the news is out. Dear Lord, I hope you guys don't have any injuries. No injuries. Please, Lord, no injuries to Mo Salah, Roberto Firmino, or Sadio Mane. No injuries.
So
And
we were
dude,
in,
Chan being out for the year is devastating. Oh,
yeah.
I wish. Oh man, because that would be huge if Emery Chan could play in the Champions League final for you guys. That would be massive.
He's a big game player, man, and
He is.
that's why so many teams want him.
Yeah. All right. So we believe Liverpool will go on and Real Madrid will go on. So we're calling Real Madrid pool in the final.
Yes.
That'll be exciting. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Spurs and United play today in the FA Cup. I'm really looking forward to this game. I don't have any real predictions other than we all know what we're getting. We know what we're supposed to get, and if both teams play up to their potential, United should go through. But I believe Spurs will win. I'm rooting for Spurs. Come on, you Spurs. Let's go. Beat United today, please.
Same. I think.
Do it.
I think
Do it
Spurs
for
will beat
me.
them.
Do it for the world. I hope they will. I really do. But in my world, the bad guys usually win. So I'm calling United to win today. But come on, you Spurs, prove me wrong. All right. Well, we're back done, Mike.
Yeah, man. And
Anything
I just
else?
No, that's it for me.
Okay.
I've been getting it. We're not doing our formal music corner, but I'm also kind of behind everybody, so it shouldn't be in my music corner. But I've been listening to a ton of Daniel Caesar, and the dude is just phenomenal. Love it. Some kind of old school soul R&B.
Nice.
Anything you want to say?
I'll share who I've been listening to this week. It's a big difference from what I normally listen to. My cousin, shout out Barrick Robinson, he is a country music fan, and he's got me listening to this guy, Logan Mize. And he's got a bunch of songs on the radio. I'm super late to the game. He's pretty good. It's bro country more or less, which I'm not a huge fan of. I give it 6 out of 10. On the 6 out of 10 stars. It's decent stuff. For those that like country, they would probably rate it higher. I'm not a huge country fan. I think that most of the musicality, lyrics, and everything that he did in this album was extremely predictable, and that's my issue with country in general. Most of the time, I find it predictable, recycled, and uninteresting, which annoys me. But this album was decent.
That's country. It's all about the heartbreak, the souls, a little bit of alcohol.
But when you got a guy like Stapleton, well, yeah, he's singing about the same content, but he's bringing this passion and this. He has unique songs, and he doesn't. I don't feel like I'm listening to the same song over and over again. Like this Logan Mice album. Again, it was good. It wasn't bad, but my wife and I are sitting here listening to it, and she's like, "What song is this? It sounds the exact same as the last 4 we've listened to." And I'm like, "I know." And she's like, "It's not bad. There's nothing bad about it. It's just not unique." And I'm like, "Exactly. There are a couple unique songs on that album where he does something different, and those are my favorite songs on the album." But anyway, country music, man. We're gonna make a lot of people mad by critiquing country music, but
sorry. I mean, we've got 7 listeners. We need to be a little more careful with what we do here.
Man, but just show me something original, and that's why I'll hop on any country artist who brings me some soul and some originality. I'm down for that. But there we go. Play that, brother.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We will drop another pod after this week's semifinals. Up the Reds. Manchester City is blue
tonight. Up the
tonight.
Blues. Love it. City till I die. Up the Blues. We love you guys. Thank you so much. We are the champions!